they call and say,
we need your help. Yeah, we need you to come out and respond to this. If any of our customers call a 1-800 number, they'll be routed to the branch that's closest to them.
hello, welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today we have Rain for Rent. I got a big education learning about this company. I did not realize the scale they were at. Very excited to have them on. We're filming it from SME Mine Exchange in Denver. And we've got Matt Stanton. You are the senior sales manager.
Regional sales manager.
Senior regional sales manager. And then Michael Wyckoff, you are the regional technical specialist.
That's correct.
The regional makes sense, again, once I realized the scope. That it makes sense what we're talking about here. Can we maybe just start off with who Rain for Rent is for anybody who doesn't know?
Yeah, so Rain for Rent, we've been around since 1934. Last year, we celebrated 90 years as a company, and we specialize in temporary liquid handling. That is our jam. So we have a fleet of pumps, filter units, storage units, pipe, filtration equipment, safety equipment, all the things that fixed facilities or job sites would need for any of their temporary liquid handling needs.
Yeah, it was funny. I was reading through like your history. It's really nice. We'll put a link to it because people should check it out. I saw when the first, it was like, I saw the fittings, rags, nails, hatchets. Those are the first in the 1930s.
Oh, yeah.
Selling.
Yeah.
And then you just see the company, it started from the 70s to the 2000s, just acquisition.
Correct.
Pump companies, pipe, rental companies, just filter systems, like just crazy acquisitions, all on and on, right up till now. Is that sort of a culture, that growth culture? Is that sort of today still part of the mindset?
100%. The company still maintains its culture as innovative, as entrepreneurial. So we're always looking for ways to expand our ability to serve our customers in our markets that we serve.
Yeah, that it's funny you said the entrepreneur, because that's the feeling I got on the website. I was like, this company seems like they're still as aggressive as like we are right now. We've been around 10 years and we're still going for it. And you just like it's just watching the lineage and then the services and then we're going to get into some of your case studies. The capabilities are just insane. The other thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to give a shout out to this because it's one of those things, people, it's not just mining people that watch the show, and realizing the impact that a company has grown like that. All the hurricanes, we've got Katrina and Sandy and Matthew, Harvey and Florence.
Yeah.
You listed on your website all these disasters that have hit the U.S. that you've actually been a part of getting back, people giving their life back, literally.
It's one of our core services. We're emergency response. So we team up with any major emergency throughout the country or internationally, any local emergencies. We respond to those things with our equipment and our crews to get things back online, to get services back online to the communities.
Yeah. So is that like a division then of the company to like service those types of things? Or how does that sort of distribute it? Because obviously you're working on these major sites all over.
We have associations and we have connections with these major players. We work a lot closely with local government agencies, and we talk with some of the federal agencies and the state agencies. So we're a resource for them when something hits. Yeah,
it's an incredible work. It just struck me that a company that started off in the oil fields, and then all of a sudden you're part of this environment of saving people's homes and lives and the property, and it's just the impact you have from building that company is quite interesting. Michael, what is your role with the company?
I'm the regional technical specialist that focuses on mines and quarries. So I primarily work with the reps in the different areas of the regions that I cover and support them with, more technical applications or support them on larger scale jobs or things like that.
Out of the jobs, I know this is an unfair question. I'm sure you don't have the stats ready to go, but out of all these jobs, how much is, the phone call comes in, you know what to do. It's pretty standard stuff. Or how much of it is like these case studies, technical, lot of engineering that it takes to actually put these together?
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that's great about the company is we do serve such a diverse market.
Yeah.
And do a lot of things. And so because of that, there's a good portion of base business that is, just relatively easy jobs to complete, stuff that's not real technical. But I'd say probably, 10-15% are bigger scale jobs that require a lot of technical expertise. We have an engineering department that supports us, and and a lot of experience, a lot of people that have been with the company a long time, and so that really helps.
Does the just from a logistics standpoint, because we're talking a lot about regional, is there sort of these stations of similar equipment, or does it change per state, per Midwest, East Coast? Like how does it sort of set up?
We're set up pretty uniformly with the pumps and tanks and all the different equipment and crews we have. We have over 65 locations, across USA, Canada, UK, and other parts of Europe. So we position ourselves to be able to respond as quickly as possible to all these different base needs for our normal customer base and for emergencies that may happen.
Yeah.
But everyone's locations has staff available and equipment available to respond to whatever needs may arise.
Right. So, and just as a business model, it is now, are you doing the install, or are there some cases where you're just renting the units? Again, some of these more complex. I was just trying to get an understanding of what the actual setup is, or does it depend on the application?
You want to hit that, Mike?
Depends on the application or the customer, right? We go from just straight equipment rental all the way up to a full turnkey system where we do the delivery, installation, design, and actually operate the systems.
Oh, so you're on some of these sites, like on these mine sites where you're doing like temporary dewatering and things like that. You might actually be operating that system.
Yeah, we may operate the system for a long-term job sometimes, or sometimes several months to years.
So if you were going to outline it to someone listening, again, someone who doesn't know, how would you what are the buckets of service then? Or is it sort of sectioned off?
No, we're all inclusive. So we'll do the simple jobs, if they require just equipment. But we get involved sometimes very, very far in advance of a project. So we're involved with the initial issue, which is we have a temporary liquid handling issue. They come to us and let's work on a solution together. So that will involve engineering efforts to make sure this is engineered right, and then putting together those systems and then proposals, and then working that through. If we are awarded the contract, to actually put the equipment out there, staff it, install it, monitor it, provide reporting, and then disassemble all that and bring that back to the office.
So I was actually curious, are there any applications where it becomes a fixed asset, or is it always a temporary a service that you're providing?
Go ahead, Mike.
Either way.
Oh, it is either way. Okay.
We've done some permanent installations. We generally tend to do temporary things that will be removed either when their permanent system goes online, permanent system gets repaired, or whatever the case may be. But we have done some things that are permanently installed.
How is the emergency response unique in the mining sector? I imagine it's a different sort of animal than if you're looking at a municipality that gets hit with a hurricane.
There are some differences. They're more similar, I think, than maybe you would initially think. There are some specific things in mining, though, that are unique to mining, right? Like chemical compatibility, the use of low pH, high pH for the processes. There are some real important things with environmental concerns at the mine, like a lot of sites have a zero discharge policies, or water is a critical asset,
right?
They can't get enough. They don't have enough, and they really need to use it in process. And so, that's one of the things that makes it unique is the unique environment at the mine, and then it's their need to be compliant with environmental rules and regulations.
Specific to mining, what are some examples of, and again, not getting specific to the actual companies, but what are some examples of things that go wrong where an emergency response from like a rain event is required?
Okay, so one that I can think of is we had a liner failure at a copper mine where there was some environmental impact that would happen if that fluid was to get into the groundwater. So we deployed some equipment, pumps, etc., to pump that to another storage location so that it could be stored and kept, right? It has value as product as well.
Right.
We don't want it to have any environmental impact. And so we used equipment to do that. Flooding is another one that happens, right? Excessive rain happens, right? We dig a big hole in the ground, it rains, and it fills up with water.
Right.
And it fills up really quickly. And so the need to have equipment there quickly on site to be able to get that water out so it doesn't damage, equipment or assets or harm people is really one of the things that we do.
And for an example like that, what would deployment be? Let's say it's the rainwater or a liner failure. What would deployment look like? Is that, is it 24 hours before it starts pumping? Is it, a week? Like what would be kind of a rough timeline on something like that?
It depends on where it is and what the factors are, but sometimes as quick as 4 to 6 hours, we can have equipment on site and begin pumping. We'll continue doing the installation as we move forward through the process. Depends on the familiarity with the location, the relationship we have with the customer.
Well, 65. You said 65 locations. And
yes.
Would all those locations be equipped for like a mine failure? It
depends, but mostly, if it's mostly a pumping and piping issue, maybe some filtration, we can respond. And the beauty is that we have 24/7 availability. So they call, if any of our customers call a 1-800 number, they'll be routed to the branch that's closest to them.
Right.
There's a person that answers that phone call and helps dispatch the crew to go take care of the issue out there. So typical responses are very quick. And if there's resources where it's a major emergency and we have to respond extremely quickly with additional equipment or crews, that's the beauty of that network of 65 plus locations, that we can easily pull crews or equipment and mobilize them immediately to that job site.
I would love to be a fly on the wall over the last 40 years of all these acquisitions, seeing what was strategic for leveraging off like a certain network and a certain area as opposed to what was like a revenue stream. I'm sure there was lots of decisions that went into those.
Very exciting.
Yeah. The first project I want to touch on is one, I think it was in maybe Arizona. It's a 1,000 gallons per minute project. So, we were actually we talked about water emergencies just in our home. In our area, we have these all kind of apartment complex areas. It's kind of off a highway, and this is this little area, 2 roads in, and a 36-inch city pipe burst, and it turned this into a river. Like it was it 60,000 gallons per minute or something crazy. It was just a huge, like just a wall of water, like a full-on river going down through this community. Fortunately, we were on the other side, so we didn't personally get it, but some of the other people did. So you don't understand sometimes these, 1,000 gallons per minute of water.
Right. How much that really is.
How much water that actually is, the volume of that. Can you talk a little bit about that program? Maybe just if we can start with just the scope of that one first and then dig into some of the technical details.
So there was a mine site that was looking to do some additional exploration of resources available to them at their mine, but were below the groundwater table. And so they needed to go into that site and do some studies there, putting some wells in and doing some drawdown data to see what the impact would be to the water table if they were to go in there and actually put in permanent systems to dewater that area, that localized area, to get access to those minerals. The water out there consisted of a couple items that were not good for discharge. And I can't remember what they were. The arsenic and lead and arsenic. Okay. So in the dewatering efforts, the groundwater out there in this mine area had lead and arsenic in it, and that could not be discharged without some treatment. So we were contacted in the very initial phases of this project through an engineering firm to start these conversations. How do we have this issue out here? What is the solution for us to go and do this study, and then hopefully after the study be able to go and mine this mineral? So we worked with the engineering firm, the mine itself, a few other key players, and we were able to develop a system which was able to treat the well water that came out for their study and remove the arsenic and lead to a point where they could discharge it into the environment.
Oh, I see. So you're actually doing a filtering process on it as well. Oh, okay. And so like, how complicated is that project in comparison to an average project? Is that another level? Or do you get that and go, oh, this is what you need to do, and it's pretty almost standard for you?
No, that was definitely one of the more complex projects that we worked on. Right, we initially started with really a pretty low level scope of that project, and it ended up really growing
because the client doesn't necessarily know what the scale is themselves, right?
Well, you don't know what the constituents of the groundwater even were in the initial phases, right? We have one test well. We were drilling 9 additional wells we didn't know what the water quality would look like, what the level of contamination would be, and all those. And as it progressed, we had to change the system We ended up adding pH monitoring and adjustment to make the resins work properly. We had to add additional filtration. The drillers had other things and other chemicals that they were using that affected the process. We had to, pivot and make some adjustments to address those concerns. It was supposed to be a 9-month project. It ended up being just short of 3 years.
Wow.
As all of these things changed while they were preparing to get their permanent wastewater or their permanent water treatment plant online.
Yeah, when I noticed it's really nice on your website because you actually, everybody should do this, by the way, is you have the scope of the work, you have the case study, and then down below on the side you have which products were used in it. It's great. And I saw you use that the lake tank,
yeah,
16.
Yep.
680,000 gallons of water this hole.
And that's our smaller side.
Oh, that's smaller.
Yeah, so we have ones that hold almost 2 million gallons plus of temporary liquid handling. And those things go up in about a day to a day and a half.
Wow.
And you can hold that kind of capacity.
So on a project like this, then that water, though, because I'll show my ignorance here, more water is going to come into that table, right? So do they need to continue, you're saying put it back into the environment. So they hold it for a while, filter it, and then put it out into the environment. Is that the system?
Yeah, that was basically it. There were some, I don't want to get too complicated with the system, but
we got a lot of engineers that watch the show. They'll like it.
They pumped the water out of the wells. It went into the lake tank. And that was there was some pre-treatment, I guess I should mention. There was some pre-treatment before it went in with some different
before it goes into
it goes into the lake tank.
Okay.
Then as the water had residence time in that lake tank, some chemicals were able, or some other some constituents in the water were able to precipitate out.
Right. Oh, I see.
We were able to adjust the pH on that large scale instead of trying to adjust it on the 1,000 gallons a minute. It also made it so if the wells were producing different rates, that our system could consistently run at 1,000 gallons a minute, which made the filter, the modification by the polymers much more, it made it better.
Yeah. So, okay. So then after 3 years, do they then end up going to a fixed system after the long-term goal is to turn it like a tailings pond or
no, they had a wastewater plant that they were building.
Got it.
So
okay.
we put in a system that was temporary while that was in construction.
Got it.
Then they got it online, and then we transitioned over to their system.
Wow, amazing. Okay, so there was another project that I wanted to touch on that I was reading through last night. I think this one I think it's in Montana, and it was, again, this to me it seems like a massive thing. 1.7 million gallons per day filtration system.
Right.
Let's walk through that project a little bit.
Okay, so when you think about water quality violations are a huge problem for the mines. They had a tailings pond that had some issues. Their system wasn't able to keep up with the filtration that it needed to, and so we ended up bypassing their clarifier and adding filtration in so that we were able to remove all the total suspended solids out of that and make it where that water was usable, and so it was and meet their discharge quality.
That's not like an emergency thing for them, though. They would have realized, oh, we're getting behind on our filtration system, or is this like something went wrong?
I don't know. I don't remember the exact what led up to that. I think it was probably an emergency as it came to be.
Certainly going to be an emergency.
They had some problems with the system where it was not producing at the full capacity, and they had more water than they thought they would.
So you're coming in, I guess too, if they upgrade, maybe you upgrade systems over here and all of a sudden you're processing more and now you end up with more water and whatever else happens. But so now you're plugging in that case, it's an addition onto an existing system, or do you just replace that system while they are upgrading? How does that end up set up?
We will do it either way. So
okay.
if their system is operational, sometimes we'll put in something to supplement.
Yeah.
If that's not possible, we can put in a full system that's capable of doing what their system did plus more. Sometimes we'll do a replacement system if they're doing, for other situations where they're doing upgrades or repairs.
Yeah.
In this case, it was repairs.
That's actually what just struck me as you were saying that. A lot of your business must be, especially on the mining side, must be when they scale up, they put in new equipment. Now they need a temporary thing while they're pivoting over to these new systems, right?
Also in piloting too. So they may have
right.
a need to want to put a permanent system in, maybe want to pilot that first with temporary
right.
equipment before they invest in this full scale model. So
yeah. So how large of a scale is that though? Like I mean, I read it, I go millions of gallons per day filtration. That seems to me massive. And I'm looking at the pictures. We'll bring those up on the screen. What is a scale? Is that large, or is it just large in my mind?
I guess in the scheme of things for us, 1 million, 2 million gallons a day is a relatively small system. We've done them up to where, 40, 60 million gallons a day.
Wow.
It really depends on the impact though, Jared. Like, one gallon of water dropped in the wrong place can have a major impact on our customers. So, so yeah, the scales vary, but the risks also are the factor.
Again, 1,000 gallons per minute in a residential area is a real problem.
Right.
Yeah. What is your approach on the sales side? I mean, most people reaching out, I mean, they know who you are. So what are some of their common questions when they come to you with either a challenge or a problem, or they're trying to develop something? Well, how does that conversation generally start?
It's super fun. I really enjoy these. They initially start with a problem. They come with a problem. Sometimes they have a rough idea of what they think might work. We'll go over those things, but they typically are not experts in liquid handling. That's why they reach out to Rain for it. We have, like I mentioned earlier, over 90 years of experience. We have a lot of tenured folks here, and because we not only service the mining sector, but many different sectors, we have a lot of experience on very unique liquid handling issues. So when they come to us, they usually come with just the problem, and then rely on our expertise to give them some consulting meetings and some design meetings. And then if it all works out, we all get in there and we actually perform the work for them.
Those initial conversations, are there in technical proficiency, doing interviews over the years, it's like different companies sort of have, especially mine operators, they might be really proficient in water management. Some companies really are kind of like, you need to take care of this. Is it pretty consistent that you do need to get engineers, especially in mining, that you need to get engineers involved and provide that type of support?
It depends on the scope. There are a lot of things that are just pretty straightforward. A lot of dewatering stuff is really straightforward. And when we get into filtration, we get into other areas like that. Compliance with regulatory compliance is much more involved. We involve engineering a lot more. And the bigger the scale, the larger the flow rates. That's when we usually will call in some engineering support.
Well, one that stood out to me was I don't know if we're able to mention where this one is, so we'll just say it's a gold mine pump systems. You use the co-pilot pump controllers. And it was, from what I understand, it's like you're actually transferring water on that one. I don't know if that brings any bells to you, Michael. It's on your website.
It's the contaminated water.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
it's like 3 million gallons of contaminated water that needed to get pumped out.
That is a lot of water, right? That's not just my mind.
It's a lot of water.
It's a lot of water. That when it's contaminated, it makes it a lot of water, right?
So what happens on that? I mean, because you got contaminated water. It's on a mine site. They call and say,
we need your help. Yeah, we need you to come out and respond to this thing. So for those kind of problems, we'll typically come out there. We need to get an analysis of the water, what's in that water, and then we need to find out what does it need to be.
So you're actually doing the analysis as well?
We ask that from the customer.
Oh, okay.
Typically. There's certain handling of taking samples that a professional company needs to do. So we ask the customer to get a sample for us, or a third party has to do that for us. Get the sample, found what the actual requirements are to get it down to whatever it needs to be for discharge, or for them to reuse it back on their site. And then we just fill in the gap. And that's where it's fun. We geek out. This is where the engineering gets involved, especially in something like this, where it's an environmental spill in that case. A lot of parties are involved. We make sure we do it do it right the first time.
Right. I have a question for you on the technical side. We've got Devin over here as our producer, but if you get 2 or 3 producers in a room, they will agree with me or not. They will have different views on how a shot should look, how the background should look. It can get quite exciting to listen to. When you're dealing with a project like this, Devin's dealing with the technical side of our operation. If you're dealing with that, if you're in a room with 5 engineers and you're all trying to figure this out, do you all start at the same answer, or do you have to work through different systems and how you're actually going to go about it, and implementation, logistics, especially something like this where it's, there's contamination involved. I mean, it's higher stakes.
There's a lot of people involved, and there's a lot of different approaches. Usually we have the same outcome that we're looking for, right? Since we're all going for the same outcome, that
Right,
really
there's a
helps.
similar goal.
That really helps, get people in alignment quicker, right? We have some specific things that we got to make sure we address,
Right.
and so there are always different approaches to how we should do it, but I mean, there's lots of things that can play into that, right? Availability of equipment, logistics,
Right.
Different treatment options. Sometimes we do something because the equipment is more readily available and we can get started right now, particularly in emergency response or in environmental impact cases. We want to make sure that we are, controlling the situation, help them get the situation in control and get the situation rectified as quickly as possible.
When you're talking about contamination though, I was wondering too, is when you're talking about different regions though, if there's an expert that's in Florida, but this is a problem in Seattle, is there a communication with the team? Can it get up to a level where you're going, okay, we need another level of expertise coming in?
One of our absolute strengths is our networking that we do internally.
Yeah.
So Rainfront has a culture of just servicing our customers, no matter where they are. So if they're in Florida and the project's on the opposite side of the country, there's no problem getting sent that person on a plane, on a call very easily. Just getting out there, making sure all our experts are looking at it to find the best solution.
Well, again, I looked through that history. I really did find it interesting looking through it. Is that, again, you're thinking of these acquisitions, it's also an acquisition of talent.
Yeah.
Now you're getting access to different information, so that just gets deeper and deeper, that the capabilities. I would love to ask if there's a project that you couldn't handle, but I won't put you on the spot. I feel like one would flash through your mind.
There's lots of them.
And how do you deal with that though? That is another thing. How do you deal when the project's specific? Maybe it's not within your, within your scope, or so do you get that sort of thing where it's like, or maybe you have to bring in other partners from that, or different disciplines to actually deliver on the project? Is that a thing?
It is, and we definitely have them. We have strategic partners. We have an awesome vendor support group that helps us with some of the things that complements our work, but we don't do directly to solve our customers' needs.
Yeah.
Do you want to add on that, Mike?
I mean, no, we have a good group of partners that we work with, and we complement each other in our abilities and their abilities, and it makes it so we can accomplish things that we couldn't accomplish on our own.
I wish I had known to ask that question, because I'm not going to put you on the spot. I wish we could have had a couple of examples of those projects with like these collaborations. I'm sure there's some interesting ones.
Oh yeah.
That first one we talked about.
Oh, that was an example of,
we worked with one of our filtration partners to help us with the the resins. There are various different resins in that project.
Yeah.
They helped us with additional storage vessels for those resins. They helped us set up and design the system, make sure that we were going to meet the discharge requirements. So they were just key. They were critical in our ability to execute on that project.
And you both just have where you specialize and then just piece it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a good relationship with them. We do a lot of work together in filtration.
Yeah.
It's just a really great partnership.
I wanted to ask, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask about the industry has changed in the sense of monitoring. I mean, some of this technology has been around a long time, but now it's really amplified. I'll sit down in a booth for a rock truck, and they're not talking about capacity anymore. They're talking about technology. That's what they're focused on. How much is that? And rather than just jump into the technology, we know there's sensors, we know there's monitoring, we know about all that. How much is that? Have you seen a shift in demand from clients, or is that more of an internal focus, if that makes sense?
For my side, it's 100% being shifted by customers, customer needs, and costs. So the movement towards some of these pieces of instrumentation, we call it, helps to offset some of the costs of having labor out there. Not only that, but the safety component too.
Right.
It's a lot safer to have a piece of equipment monitoring sometimes in certain locations than having a man go into a hole or do other things that may not be
right.
It might be easier to do through instrumentation purposes. Plus the ability to just see things remotely and live wherever you are. We live in this age where information's at our hands, at our fingertips, and so it's been awesome for our customers to be able to look at projects, look at systems immediately, and see what's happening there wherever they are.
Yeah. Yeah, an educated customer is usually a much happier customer. Yeah.
Yep.
And then have you noticed, how long have you been in the sort of the technical side of fluid management?
Coming up on 18 years.
Have you noticed a shift in, let's say, something like land stewardship? Has that, both of you would get that from the clients. have you noticed a shift in how that demand is there at the forefront now?
100%. I have. Yeah. So, the stewardship of the land, stewardship of the water resources. Water is a limited resource.
Mhm.
We have to use that wisely. The communities that are involved. Communities have now encroached close. As we grow out, they're encroaching closer on some of these plant sites.
Yeah.
So they have to be, very good neighbors
Yeah.
to the community, and so that involves just being very responsible with every aspect of their job, including liquid handling.
How much does all this monitoring, real-time data, AI now coming into play, how much does that help from a technical side in these projects?
Well, I mean, mining's always been pretty aware.
Yeah.
Or definitely they were early adopters of environmental monitoring and regulation. And
Yeah.
so that's a little bit of they were really early adopters. I think the biggest thing for us that I see is they've had monitoring and all of these instrumentation type, equipment processes in place for years. What we've kind of seen for us is the need for that in the rental equipment, in the temporary systems, right? They
Right.
have permanent systems that have all the capacity, but us being able to put that on our rental equipment and offer it at a rate that's inexpensive and meets their need is been a big change for us.
Yeah, I guess it'd be a lot more like things like automation. There'd be a lot more. There'd just be an expectation. It's going to be part of it right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a change in the rental side of things.
Right,
In
yeah.
temporary systems, that was usually not something that we ever experienced, particularly in the mines. It was really, really limited. But in the last, 2 years to 5 years, that's really, I've seen just, exponential growth in that area.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's interesting to have a company like this. Like, you hear of a company, you maybe know the brand, but then you dig into them and you go, oh, wow, this is what they do. So I was reading through your website last night and I was like, I'll take 30 minutes. An hour later, I was with other stuff to do in the middle of the night thinking, oh no, I'm running out of time here. Absolutely incredible what you do. I know we just kind of just touched on a sliver of it. I guess the one thing I would sort of wrap up with is just as a leadership company, what is you already mentioned it, that sort of the entrepreneurial environment of it. Is that sort of at every level in every department, and how do you sort of see that gets maintained? I mean, it's hard for me to imagine us keeping that energy when we're 50 years down the road. It's, you start to like, oh, we have our customers, we have our base, we have our systems, we've had all these acquisitions. It'd be easy to just take your foot off the pedal a little bit. What do you see happens in the company that sort of keeps that energy going?
I think there's a lot of empowerment there in a company. So I mentioned earlier, we have over, all these locations across the country, across other countries too. Each one of those has sales reps, and those sales reps are responsible for maintaining our customers and listening to their needs and listening to trends and things like that.
Yeah.
What's beautiful about the company's maintain this is that if there's an idea that's coming across, it's easily for that idea to get surfaced up to executive leadership to see if we can do something about it. So there's a lot of empowerment, even at the local level, for that facility to look into maybe where we can expand our envelope and move into these other sectors of opportunity where we can service our customers. And then maybe if that looks like it's successful, then it's something we expand nationwide. And
right. So that communication, that line of communication is not, it's not 10 layers between corporate and the guy that's actually on the ground getting the information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's built in our culture. So those kind of opportunities they look for those opportunities, how we can keep growing and expanding and meeting our customer needs.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that from a technical perspective? Because
leadership's receptive to it. That's the other thing, right? We have a pretty strong R&D department. We have a strong, our engineering is really focused on driving new technology, innovation, and moving that stuff forward. So when opportunities arise, executive management is receptive to doing things to try to solve those problems and move in that direction. When they see a need, they're very happy to try to help solve the problem for the customers.
Yeah. Absolutely incredible what your company does. It's actually quite an honor to be a part of. We've worked with lots of companies here, and just getting to learn more about them. It never gets old. It just never gets old, because the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. It's one of those situations. So thank you both for doing this, and I hope we get to do it again soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Go check out Rain for Rent, follow them, connect with both gentlemen on LinkedIn. We'll put the link in their description below, as long as that's okay with both of you. And go follow them on the company LinkedIn as well. We'll put that. Thank you for watching, everybody. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.